From Relay FM, this is Connected, episode 130. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Text Expander from Smile, Ministry of Supply, and Squarespace. My name is Myke Hurley. I am joined by Monsieur Stephen Hackett.
Hola.
Hola, Stephen Hackett. How are you?
I'm good, Myke. How are you today?
I'm very good. We're very sad, though. We have no Federico. But we have a very special guest who's going to be joining me a little later on in the show when I kick you out.
It's true. You're going to trade me out for our guest, basically.
An upgraded Hackett.
There you go. Let's do some follow-up.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked a little bit, I don't even know when it was, a couple weeks ago about kind of what we're doing with HomeKit.
We've been talking a lot about it recently.
A lot about it.
Yeah.
I wrote a whole thing up about it on 5 Pixels. We'll put that in the show notes if you haven't seen it. It was fun to kind of put that together and walk through what I'm using. But if you are a Relay FM member, we have a members-only show that you should be aware of. And I recorded an episode about this with you and Matt Alexander of Bonanza, amongst other things. And I think it came out really nice, like a 30-minute conversation about what we're using and got into like the ecosystem questions. So lots of like home automation stuff going on around Relay right now, but it's a lot of fun.
So yeah, relay.fm/membership, sign up, and you'll get a link in the email to our very special subscriber podcast, member podcast.
There you go. Secret Relay subscriber membership podcast.
That's the full name, by the way. If you want to search for it, you'll find it. So good luck.
Let's talk about WWDC a little bit. So this happened.
This is how I feel about this.
This happened on Wednesday, I think.
All I know is it destroyed my day. Like I was getting ready to make myself some lunch. I had an afternoon full of recording, right? Like back-to-back recordings that I had to do on Wednesday, including that the secret member special subscriber episode podcast.
Yeah, it was Thursday. Excuse
there
us.
you go. Whatever day it was. It doesn't matter what day it was, but it was that day. So I was just getting out some stuff to start cooking myself some lunch. And then Federico texts me. Well, I think he sent it to our group chat. And he's like, WWDC announced. I'm like, oh, lols, Federico. Look at you. Yeah. It's February. It's not even March yet. Come on. And then the next text said, San Jose. And I'm like, I don't know where that is. I know it's in California.
I was still in bed. I had just gotten up and like rolled over and picked up my phone because usually y'all have been talking. I need to make sure anything is pressing, and this was happening. And so Apple is returning to San Jose for WWDC, where it was until like 2002 or so, somewhere in there. And they moved to San Francisco. They're moving back. I believe it's a permanent move. I don't think they're going to go back to San Francisco at some point, but we'll see. It's going to be really different. And San Jose is, the little bit of time I've spent there, it is vastly different than downtown San Francisco, where we have been for the last 4 years. This will be my 5th WWDC, which is pretty crazy. And it's just going to mean a lot of changes, I think. There were a lot of people, including me and you, and a lot of people we work with who don't attend WWDC as a developer, but they go to the conference and do things around the conference and in the evenings and that sort of thing. And my guess is that a lot of that will be drastically different this time. I would point people to yesterday's episode of Upgrade where you and Jason talk about this. And Jason, of course, has been going to Apple developer conferences for like 150 years.
Yeah.
And talked about what it was like in San Jose and then the move to San Francisco. So he has a really unique perspective that obviously, I can't have. But I think it's going to be different, and we've had a lot of questions about what we're going to do. And since the two of us are in the business and we're in the show, so it's a good place to talk about that.
We established a tradition, right? But that tradition was...
We had our what you would call a first annual event.
Yep, we had our first annual RelayCon San Francisco.
And we were mere days away from signing a contract on a space.
Yep.
Which would have been...
It was a 50% non-refundable deposit was required.
Yeah, that would have been unfortunate. So thankfully we didn't do that. But obviously we were unsure. There's a lot of uncertainty about not only is like, what is this going to be like? There's a lot of conversation. You and Jason got into this. Like, is Apple going to provide more stuff after hours for people to do because it's not in San Francisco, because it's a little bit of a quieter city? I don't know. I don't think they're going to, but we'll see. But there's this uncertainty, right? Like things and traditions that came up in San Francisco are now kind of up for grabs. And the big problem I'm running into as the senior vice president of live events at Relay FM, we have an organization. So aside, Myke and I, we share an organization chart at the company, but there's only two of us. So like I'm, co-founder and SVP of like 4 things, and you're co-founder and SVP of another 4 things. It's very, it was a very interesting process to go through. And so we're trying to find space. And as you may imagine, San Jose has a lot fewer options, especially downtown, because we want to be walking distance of the conference. We don't want people to have to Uber anywhere. And most of those places are bars. So like we're working through it. What we can say today is that we are working on at least a meetup, is our hope to have a meetup, but we are probably not going to do a live show this year because of the venue problem. Because it's a new thing, if we plan all this and Apple says, hey, attendees, there's stuff for you every night of the week, it could be really hard for independent events to be successful. And so if this year, like we do a meetup and it sells out and there's demand for something, then I think, it's obviously a long way away, but, I think I'd be comfortable saying in 2018 we would be looking at that again. Yeah. But this year, I think we're going to play it safe. And my guess is a lot of other people are too.
So for me, it's not even about that's definitely a factor, right? Like that we have no idea what every evening's going to look like. But for me, the shows that we record during WWDC week are some of the most important shows that we record in the entire year. And we don't know what the situation would be like at any of the potential venues that we're going to go to because we've never seen them. And if they're not conducive to a good atmosphere, like a good AV setup for recording, we could end up losing the episode, which would be a disaster for all of the people that tune in that aren't going to be able to be there. So I don't want to sacrifice the episode that week because we're not sure of what the arrangement's going to be like. So we will, of course, be recording in person because all 3 of us are going to be in San Jose. Yes. I keep going to say San Francisco. I wish it didn't start with San.
San Jose.
San Frosé. We're all going to be there, so we're going to record an episode together, but it won't be a live episode. But we do want to, because one of the best things about RelayCon last year was getting to meet a bunch of people, so we want to do that. So we're working on a meetup. We're just trying to find a good venue for that. And then hopefully we'll be able to return next year in 2018 to be doing a RelayCon live show in San Jose, because we will have been able to kind of scout out some venues. And I know, like, I'm sure that there will be people in and around that area that will be, as we've had already, some people that are willing to like help us out, find a good place. If you know anywhere that's good for a meetup, let us know. But I'm really particular about a lot of things, I'm concerned. I won't feel comfortable about recording a show in a place until I can see it.
Well, yeah. So anyway, so there's all of that going on. So we will have news hopefully soon on what we're going to do, and stay tuned for that. So all in all, though, there's a lot of stuff. Again, watch just the 2 of us. There is a lot of stuff coming in 2017. So especially with the Pen Addict, if you haven't checked out that Kickstarter, you totally should. You guys are bringing the Pen Addict to Atlanta, DC, and Chicago this year.
U.S. tour, baby!
U.S. tour. Mac Power Users has an event next month in Chicago, which I will be flying up for. And then there will be something at WWDC. So we're doing, all in all, a lot more this year out in the world, which is really exciting. It's a lot of fun to do that stuff. Yeah,
like a lot of the Pen Addict stuff, there will be Pen Addict shows, but also we're going to be trying to work on meetups in those cities. So, more information will follow about all of those. And there is potential for maybe 2 London meetups this year.
One of them inside Mike's new house. It's not true.
Yeah, but I think there might only be like 2 people invited to that one. But yes, there will be a meetup inside my house. Yeah,
it's not a meetup if you don't know everybody's name. Mm-hmm. Also, kind of in corporate update this week, we are hiring for a administrative assistant to help behind the scenes at Relay FM. So if you have looked at this or haven't looked at it yet, there's a new page, relay.fm/jobs. You have until Friday to send a cover letter and a resume if you're interested. We've had what I would call an overwhelming response. We've spent a lot of time looking through stuff already, but you have until Friday. We're going to cut it off then and move forward in that process. So it's exciting.
Thank you to everybody that's applied. We have some amazing candidates already. So thank you if you have, and if you haven't and you're interested, you still have a couple of days to do that.
Yep. So let's get into some sort of more regular follow-up again. I wanted to point out and talk to you about Reverb.ai. I saw this yesterday, and it is an app for Mac, iOS, and Android that ties in to the Amazon Voice Services, which is the kind of technology behind the Echo and the lady in the canister. And I've been using an app on iOS for a while now that Federico pointed out to me called Astra.
Me too.
These apps are basically interchangeable. They do the same thing. You open the app, you hit the button, and you talk to it, and then Amazon's lady answers you, just like if you're talking into an Echo. I'm really trying hard not to say her name for you, Myke.
I appreciate it.
And it's nice because you have those services just with you. And I've used Astra a bunch. It's on my home screen. I'm really happy with it. I downloaded Reverb just to kind of play with it. The UI is a lot nicer, but I like Astra and I like that it has a pink icon. So they do the same thing. So the icon's a big factor. But
yeah, there's not a lot of interface in these applications.
There's basically no interface. It's like the thing about this though is just really highlights to me is like, why has Amazon not done this? Like, just put
because they don't need to
Echo app. But I agree with you. But I think what it would do is the thing about the best of voices is the one you have with you all the time that Apple nerds like to trot out, and Phil Schiller trotted out the same line. Like that, there is truth to that to a degree, and I think that Amazon could very easily put this out on iOS and Android and everywhere else and really grow its ecosystem. Now, of course, Amazon wants to sell you the hardware, right? Like having a bunch of freeloaders using the Amazon voice services really isn't their main goal with this, right? I think they really want to sell that hardware. But I think for people who already have an Echo, like it's nice that I have that same capability just on my phone when I'm out and about. And I find myself using it a good bit. And, you know, again, Siri has improved, but I think I, like a lot of other people, have for the most part kind of written off Siri for now, at least, because it does get things wrong and it is frustrating to use sometimes. And the Echo and the Amazon voice service just works more the way that I want it to work. So I like having it. So you said you have Astra on your phone. Do you end up using it at all? Or?
Very rarely. I used it. I've used it a couple of times. Mm-hmm. I have it in case I need it, but honestly, like most of the times that I need to control something on my Echo, I'm at home where I have two of them. Like I just got to raise my voice and it will hear me.
Yeah. So that's a good point. I mean, I've got a dot right here. Like I can touch it. I'm touching it right now. So, but if you're out and about, it's nice. Lastly, Snapchat spectacles, which are something that kids like. If you're a youth, you can now just buy them online, which is super boring and so mainstream. And ugh,
that was perfect. We're just going to move on. I cannot add to this in any way. You totally nailed it. And this week's episode is brought to you, that was so good, by Text Expander from Smile. Text Expander for Teams multiplies your productivity. It gives everybody in your group a shared knowledge base that they can draw from. Text Expander will help everyone that you work with communicate quickly and accurately. Imagine an environment in which all of the replies that your team send out to, for customer support or to clients, the common things that they send all of the time are worded by your best writers. So you have your best people create the common responses, then it's shared with everyone. You set them up once and you can ensure consistency every time. And if something needs to be changed, it can be changed once, it's changed for everyone. Then imagine that all of that text is immediately accessible and searchable through simple abbreviations and keyboard shortcuts. Then what if they're on every platform? Mac, iOS, and even now Windows. In short, this is what Text Expander gives you. Look, if you use it on your own, Text Expander is that great little tool that helps you from saving from typing things over and over again, right? It saves you time. But when you use it together with people, Text Expander is a platform for increasing productivity as a group, increasing consistency, making less mistakes. Like, this is what it's all about. You know, we're talking about bringing somebody on, like hiring someone. I will be using TextExpander for Teams with this person, so we can ensure consistency in the emails and the communication that we're sending out to people. Because why not? Like, it's there, it's available, and it's super simple to set up, super simple to change. You don't need to send around like all hands emails when some wording is changed. All you do is you just change the snippet that's in TextExpander and it syncs to everybody. Visit textexpander.com/connected to sign up for your free trial and to learn how companies such as WordPress and Desk multiply their productivity using TextExpander. Thank you so much to TextExpander for their support of this show. Rumors everywhere. All of the rumors, they're all over the place, and we're going to talk about them.
It's a good intro. So we're going to talk about the next iPhone, and I feel like every day there's some new rumor or facet or feature that the iPhone 8 is going to have. Mm-hmm. And I think I've first voiced this back in the fall, that this is quickly becoming like the magic unicorn phone. Yep. And there's a lot of expectations to do this. And I think that if this stuff isn't true, we will see Apple PR start its Whisper campaign probably here pretty soon to kind of bring things down a notch. But we haven't gotten to that yet. We're all doped up on Mac rumors and iPhone rumors, so... Not Mac Rumors.
No, Mac
Rumors.
Rumors.
The website.
We're at the website. There's absolutely zero Mac
If
rumors.
there was a new Mac Pro rumor, it would be like sweet drugs to so many Mac users.
Somebody should just write that. You should just write that, you know? Just start a rumor campaign, you know? That's how it works.
Yeah, that's what people come to 512 for.
Yeah, they do. We have some reports from Myke Kuo, our favorite over at KGI Securities. Written some more reports. Would you like me to go through them, Stephen?
Please.
So the current rumor is that the unicorn phone is going to be the third iPhone model debuted in September, alongside the 7S and the 7S Plus. So we will see so the rumors we were hearing about like the iPhone 6 design being tried out for a fourth time is because there will be a 7S and a 7S Plus, right? I'm sure that there will be chip enhancements and camera enhancements and, you know, maybe some colors, that kind of thing. But there's also going to be this new device alongside it. This device, now stay with me here, right? It will have similar physical dimensions to the 4.7-inch iPhone 7, but it will have an edge-to-edge display. This screen panel, so the actual screen that will go on the front of this device, will measure around 5.8 inches, but 5.15 inches of it will be used like a screen that we're used to. So there is part of the screen at the bottom of the phone that is not used for standard screen use. The rest of this screen is being referred to as a function area, basically software buttons at the bottom of the phone, right? Kind of like how you see on Android phones. They have software buttons, right? It's part of the screen, but you can't do anything there in theory. So the screen for content, so the content area, will be just a little bit smaller than the Plus size phone, which is 5.5 inches. So over a 5-inch screen in a 4.7-inch body, which is very interesting. Big screen, small phone. Alongside this, so we're gonna come back to that function row in a minute because there's some other rumors, but that's a whole big thing on its own, right? So there's like function area is being called. This phone will feature a new stacked logic board design to allow for a bigger battery inside, so longer battery life, which I'm sure will be needed as well because the screen's getting bigger. It is expected that this phone will adopt other biometric technology. It is unknown at this point whether Touch ID will be replaced or somehow embedded into the screen. Like, there seems to be a lot of consternation as to whether that's actually happening this time. There will be a new front-facing camera and infrared module that can sense 3D space, according to another rumor, also from Myke Kuo. This new front-facing camera technology will include facial recognition, iris recognition, and the ability to take 3D selfies that you can add to characters in games. And apparently this is a use of the technology that Apple acquired from PrimeSense. That's a whole big bag of stuff that's new. This unicorn phone is expected to cost around $1,000, which makes a ton of sense because it sounds like it's going to be super advanced, and also what a great way to increase the ASP again. Right? I'm not being cynical here, but like, yeah, what a great way to like give me this phone that is full of insane technology and charge me a huge price for it.
And the pricing is not bananas. I mean, right now, if you buy off contract, which is what this price is about, the iPhone 7 starts at $649 here in the US, and the iPhone 7 Plus at $769. Now, if you take the 7 Plus to a 256 gig configuration, so the most expensive iPhone you can buy right now, unlocked in the United States, is $969. So if this phone, if we have the 7S and 7S Plus, and then we have this new phone at the top of the range, the pricing is in line with what you would expect to see. Like, it's a lot of money, but it is, the phone that I have right here on my desk was $869 unlocked. Like, it is within reason, I think. And to your point, would help with the ASP and other things Apple cares about that in the bottom line.
Yep. And that'll be starting at 1,000, right? That'll be like the base storage at 1,000.
Yeah, that'll be the 16 gig. No, I was kidding. And
can you imagine? It's like all this new technology with 16 gigs of storage.
Yeah, well, they got rid of that right now. It starts at what does it start at now? I'm trying to go.
It starts at 32 now, right?
Yeah, 32, 128, 256. And I could even see a world where like maybe the 32 gig goes away in this model that
it's
is sort of the
128
flagship.
256, like the iPads.
Yeah. So the pricing I got no problem with. There's a lot of interesting stuff in these rumors. Like each one of these is a topic unto itself.
Yep.
But let's go back to the no bezel like function area thing. And when I saw this last week or over the weekend, whenever it was, the first thing that came to mind was the touch bar, right? So on the MacBook Pro, you have this new thing that is basically like software powered function buttons, right?
Yep.
And you could see a world in which that would be useful in an iPhone. And the thing that's really impressed me after having switched to the Touch Bar MacBook Pro, as you predicted, #Myke was right, is that it really can make things faster if you embrace it. And you can ignore it. Like for instance, in something like Logic or Final Cut where I know all the shortcuts, I'm not really using the Touch Bar. But just yesterday, actually, I was in Microsoft Word doing something, and Office recently added like really great touch bar support.
And who knows where the buttons are in Office, right? Like
Exactly. And I think this could be a nice boon to iPhone software to say if you have something you want your users to get to, but it's buried behind a button somewhere, you can surface that. And the other thing that comes to mind is that this unicorn phone is going to be a little bit smaller screen real estate than the Plus. And that's the only thing about this that makes me a little sad because I like the real estate on my Plus. But if you have a way to move some of your on-screen elements off-screen and put them in this touch bar, then it kind of balances out a little bit. And so it all kind of makes sense to me from that perspective. And you could, in theory, use like the touch bar stuff on the Mac. And people forget, Federico brought this up in our notes, is that on the iPad you have the shortcut bar. So above the iPad keyboard, there's space where developers can put in buttons. And you see this on the iPhone sometimes, but it's really designed for the iPad.
Yep.
So it's kind of a blend of those two things would be interesting. And you already have some of that in iOS with the iPad keyboard, and you already have it on the Mac with a touch bar. Like you can kind of bring those things together into something new, which I think would be actually, honestly, pretty exciting.
So In and Outland in the chat room has said something which I find really interesting. So the home button will be virtual. Not sure how much I would like a totally on-screen home button. It makes literally no difference to the button you've got now because that button doesn't move. That button is a flat piece of plastic or glass, right, which is completely unmoving. Like if they just had a little circle, right, which is how I'd expect there'd be a little circle on the bottom of the phone constantly. You just press in that area and it just kicks back at you like the Force Touch, the haptic stuff. I don't even think you'd need it. Like I really don't think that this is a thing that would be necessary. Mrs. Super said like you wouldn't be able to feel where it is, right? Which I totally get because it's not going to be recessed in any way. But the actual button went away. Like there is no button anymore. But anyway, there are a couple of different ways that an area like this could be used, right? You could use it the way that Android uses it, and it's just nothing, right? Like when you're watching video and you're playing games, most Android phones take advantage of the full screen. Not all of them, but many of them. But other than that, there's like the three buttons at the bottom. There's like a multitasking button, a home button, and a back button. Now, there are no buttons that Apple would add to this thing, right? You could maybe put a multitasking button next to it, as a permanent button, but there isn't like a back button, and I can't imagine Apple adding a back button to iOS now. So, like, from my perspective, the idea of this being just like a dumb area with those 3 kind of unchangeable buttons doesn't seem like a thing to me. Like, I feel like there will always be the button in the middle, right? Like a dedicated space to go home, but there will be other things, right? And what could they be? Like you said, we could have like a black area with colorful buttons on it, like the touch bar, right? Or what if you dropped the tab bar that's in a lot of applications down to that area? Like, like an app like Tweetbot, right? Like a consistent UI paradigm of iOS is to have that tab bar at the bottom, right? Where you just go from area to area. Well, what if that dropped down to that bottom area? So you could have more real estate on screen. You could do something like that. So instead of it being like just a function key, it could be dynamic. It could do any of those things, right? You could have just functions there if you're an application that just needs functions, or you can put some tab bars there if you're like an app that uses tab bars. Or what if it's like a control center type thing, like control strip? Like there are a bunch of different things that could happen here that frankly I think I'd be more interested in having some of this stuff on iOS than on the Mac, just because of the direct manipulation with the entire screen at all times, right? Like, it's all in front of you. It's all there. It's easier to hit. Like, you're looking at it. It's right there. Like, people say about the touch bar isn't as good because I don't look at my keyboard like I'm a touch typist. Like, that isn't a consideration. That isn't an issue with the phone because you're always looking at the screen, right? So those buttons are more discoverable at all times. I would be really interested to see this thing. And honestly, this makes so much sense to me because Touch Bar feels like Retina, right? Like it feels like one of the things, like one of those like Touch ID. Like it feels like just something that will permeate across Apple products.
Right. It's going to just kind of spread and trickle out over time.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, who knows with these rumors, right? Like they're rumors, but this one makes a lot of sense. Like the 3D selfies and facial recognition stuff, like, okay, I can kind of see it, but that seems like super out there. But like you can couple it to be like, well, maybe there's no Touch ID, although I still think there will be Touch ID. I think they're going to put Touch ID on the back of the device, honestly. I don't think it's going to be embedded into the screen this time. Actually, I'm just going to put my stake in the ground now. That feels like a big jump. I think maybe the one after this, they'll put it in the screen. But then they might want to have a different unlocking mechanism, and facial and iris recognition, if you can do it right, sounds fun. But that still seems like that's a really big thing. It feels like a big jump. But something like having this function area seems possible. Like Mobile World Congress is coming up, and there are a bunch of leaks and like press invites for LG and Samsung, and all of these phones are going like edge to edge. Mm-hmm. And so I'm very confident that Apple will do it, and if they do, adding a touch bar to the iPhone seems like a really interesting idea.
Yeah, I think it's definitely time for them to reevaluate the industrial design. The chin and the forehead are really aging. I think I agree with you on all of that, and I think there's a lot of interesting stuff here, and I think as we get closer to it, it will probably become more clear what's going on. I mean, it's February, and we're talking in detail about the next iPhone. Like it seems like it's earlier than ever. But
I think it's because people were a bit underwhelmed, or at least the media was underwhelmed, including me with the previous one. So it's like we're hanging, and also this has been a discussion. This phone has been a discussion since before the 7, right?
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about what this would mean from like a strategy perspective, because that is almost equally interesting to me. And so if we go with this model that in the fall this year, we will see an iPhone 7S, an iPhone 7S Plus, which look the same as the 7 and 7 Plus we have now, which is what my prediction was for the year. With this 8/Pro, we'll get to the naming in a minute, on top of those is the new high-end model. This would be a really big break from Apple's iPhone strategy to date. Really, the only other break has been... Well, there have been two others. The first was the iPhone 5C. So when they introduced the iPhone 5S, instead of demoting the iPhone 5 to that sort of, low cost, maybe even free on contract or $100 on contract phone, they pulled the iPhone 5 from sale and replaced it with the iPhone 5C. It had all the same guts, had a better camera, but an all-new industrial design that only lasted 1 year. Plastic, colorful. To date, probably one of my favorite iPhones in the hand. The iPhone 5C is great. But it was a break in strategy. And the conversation then was Apple's going to make a cheap phone. People have said the C would stand for cheap. Of course, I think it ended up standing for colorful or unapologetically plastic. I think is what Johnny Ive said in the video. But it was a break. And clearly it didn't work. And they went back to demoting the new phone a year later to that middle price point, and then, kind of shuffling it down the line till it was free and then out the door. And there were a lot of reasons for that. My guess is, and what I've read and kind of what I've heard since then, is that the iPhone 5 was problematic to produce, especially in the black. And it's one reason they changed the color on the 5S. It's one reason that they've never gone back to that black even now. And maybe the 5C was meant to be more, but at the very least it covered the manufacturing angle. But it didn't pan out, right? The iPhone 5C faded into history, and most people never had one. Most people never used one, and it's kind of gone. The second break was the next year when they introduced the 6 and 6 Plus, where you had two main headlining phones. The Plus was a little bit better in some ways and more expensive, but basically two new phones. Spec-wise, basically the same, except camera and battery life, but same processor, same industrial design. And this is where they've been for a while now. So the 6 and 6 Plus got demoted to the middle spot and stayed around. The options get simpler. You can't choose colors. You have limited size options. And then they sort of shuffle down the line and then disappear. And that's the world that we live in now. My question is, with this phone, a year from now, or a year and a half from now, I guess, what happened? The 7 and 7S Plus get demoted, and then does the 8/Pro, where does it go? What happens? What's happening with the iPhone SE, which we're going to talk about after the ad break? It's rumored to get an update soon. It's much more complicated than it used to be. And I don't have a problem with that. I think Apple is trying to grow the iPhone into new markets. The 5C was supposed to be lower cost. It really wasn't, but it looked new and really was a new phone, so had some potential there, but it's just a different strategy. And instead of breaking low with the 5C, they're breaking high with the 8/Pro/Unicorn phone. And I think it will work. I think this phone, even if half this stuff is true, even if it's just an upgraded 7S with a new industrial design, I think at least the fans are going to buy it. Sign me up for this phone, dude. This is what I'm getting. Even if it means a downgrade in screen size a little bit. So I think it'll be successful, but I just wonder why Apple's doing it now. Is this a way to head off leveling iPhone sales? iPhone sales were up this year over where they have been, which is good. It's what Apple said would happen, but they want to continue growing. Is this a way to do that? Or is this a weird stopgap? Is the iPhone 7 a hiccup? And that's kind of to your next point in the notes of, does this phone explain why 2016 was a little underwhelming? Was this phone supposed to be out in 2016? And this whole strategy thing I just broke down really wasn't the plan, but it's kind of the world they're going to be in because this phone wasn't ready. And we will probably never know the answer to that until, someone's dying and writes a book, but it is, it's really interesting to think about.
I think this was the plan all along, honestly. I feel like it would have. I think we would have seen some other signs, if Apple had to go back to the drawing board, right? Because I think that a long time in advance. I think that the plan was always to kind of just hold over a year, and then make a big jump. But I don't think the next phone after that will be as big a jump. It will be like what we're used to, right? It will be more incremental stuff. But they wanted to maybe the areas that they wanted to move into required a lot more time to develop. This full screen stuff seems like maybe a pretty tricky thing to get perfectly right. So maybe it was just we need 2 years on this one, 3 years on this one. We need a longer time period. And the strategy, I am totally seeing what you're saying, right? There's so many different models, but whether you like it or don't like it, I'm not annoyed by it like some people are. This is Tim Cook. Every Apple line has grown under his leadership, in product choice. that's what he does, right? Like this is, or at least this is the Apple under Tim Cook, whether it's him or whether it's somebody else, right? Like we're going to talk about the iPads again in a minute, but like there are more iPads than there's ever been. I know that, there maybe aren't as many Macs, but there are still a ton of choices, even when there maybe shouldn't be all the choices that there is, right? They're still selling products that shouldn't be sold. Like,
right.
This is they sold 2 models of Apple TV when there was absolutely no reason to. Like, they sell lots of options, and one of the reasons to do this is because you can then have something that's super expensive, and this will be a way to grow revenue in the iPhone sector. Like, I don't disagree with these things. Like, I see the business use and I see the business case for many of these things. Like, having a more expensive iPhone is a smart thing to do, because you have some cultures that will buy it just because they want to have the most expensive phone to show that they have the most expensive phone. Or you have some people that are just like so eaten up in the technology, or you just have some people that just want the latest and greatest. But whatever it is, you're going to be able to get maybe double the ASP from some people, right? More, triple. And that's going to be an interesting thing for the graphs. But if you don't care about the graphs, if this phone is what we're hoping it's going to be freaking amazing. And also, I think that they will call this the iPhone Pro, and this is the perfect time to give it a different name, and then maybe to change the iPhone naming going forward so they get off the number cycle, because I don't think that's helping them. And I think this one will probably be called the iPhone Pro, because what else would you call it?
Yeah, and that kind of defers the problem. Like, I'm very curious what they call the second generation of iPad Pro, like iPad Pro 2, I bet. But I think you're right, and I think that if this had been the plan for 2016, the leaks we're seeing now we would have seen a year ago, leading into what would be the 7 and 7 Plus. But instead, all the leaks were there's no headphone jack.
Yeah,
and this stuff was kept really quiet until recently. And so I agree with you. I think it's weird that maybe 2016 was a little underwhelming. That's not to say this isn't a good phone. I really like my 7 Plus, but it is much more evolutionary for a new model number than they have been in the past. And this phone, to back up a second, would be a huge break from where we've been, and would really be a big turn in a new direction without evolving to that point, like a big jump forward. And of course, then from then they will have to iterate again, and you kind of get this spurt of innovation all at once, which is, I mean, if all this stuff is true, we didn't even talk about like wireless charging, I don't think, but if all this stuff is true, then this would be probably the biggest feature set change to the iPhone maybe ever. I mean, really, you had the 4 that brought the Retina display and that industrial design, and then you had the 6 and 6 Plus. But I think this phone would be a bigger change than those 2 years brought. So it would be exciting as someone who, has carried an iPhone for a long time, almost continuously since the beginning, except for a little dabbling in WebOS and Android here and there, that, like I said, sign me up for this. I think I'm ready.
But this isn't all, kids. We have more rumors. But first, let's take a moment to talk about our friends at Ministry of Supply. Look, work clothes suck. You spend 40 hours a week in them. They're uncomfortable. They make you hot. They make you sweaty. They're restrictive, unbreathable. And at the end of the day, they're all wrinkled and tatty looking. This is what Ministry of Supply is here to fix. They make performance clothes for the modern-day workplace. Launched by MIT engineers, Ministry of Supply combines human-centric research, performance technology, and tailored design to create wear-to-work clothes for men and women, like dress shirts, blouses, and pants. For example, the Ministry of Supply Future Forward dress shirt for men has NASA-invented fibers that regulate body temperature based on your surroundings. The Ministry of Supply Easier Than Silk shirt for women has the drape and feel of a silk shirt, but with 4-way stretch, wrinkle-resistant, and most importantly, it's machine washable. They make great clothes that are comfortable to wear, that you feel good in, that you're not going to get all hot and sweaty in, and that a lot of the time don't even need to be ironed. I mean, that's the dream, right? Ministry of Supply also make socks as well now too. The Smarter Dress socks are made of coffee fiber that wick sweat and absorb odor. They provide extreme cushion with more padding than gym socks, so your feet are going to feel nice and bouncy throughout the day. Ministry of Supply offer free shipping, free returns, and a 100-day no questions asked return policy. If you don't like it, send it back to them. No deal. They're no problem at all. Free returns, they're good with it. To find out more and to get a fantastic 15% off your first purchase, go to ministryofsupply.com/connected, or you can visit any of their 9 retail stores in locations like San Francisco, Atlanta, and Chicago. Mention this show and you will get 15% off as well. How cool is that? Thank you so much to Ministry of Supply for their support of Connected and Relay FM.
All right. So the March event seems to be back on, according to the rumor cycle. Real quick rundown, 128 gig iPhone SE option. No real word as if it's going to get a spec bump or not, but at least the new model. iPhone Mini Pro, we're going to come back to that, and a product red iPhone 7 and 7 Plus. And I remember leading into the iPhone 7, this was a rumor then that they would have a red anodized version, and I think it looks really good in the renders, so all that's rumored. The iPad Mini is expected to get the smart connector, True Tone, and 4 speakers, so to bring it in line with the other iPad Pro options. I don't really know why they would do this. I mean, the iPad Mini is by I think any way you can measure it. Of course, Apple doesn't say, but not the best-selling iPad. It's generally the slowest to receive updates, and I think its winning feature is that it is so portable. And do you want to put a keyboard on an iPad that small? Do they have room inside to put 4 speakers? I just don't know. It just seems like an odd thing to me. But this would be alongside with the already expected refreshes to the 9.7 and the 12.9 inch iPad Pro, and of course the introduction to the 10.5 inch iPad Pro. So we're just talking about Apple doing a lot of different devices. We could be looking at 4 new models of iPad Pro in March, which is just exhausting to talk about.
So the 9.7 inch iPad Pro and 12.9 are expected to get some bumps, right? So you're going to get True Tone in the 12.9, talking about adding 4 microphones to it, and then also the introduction of the 10.5 inch iPad Pro. Mac Otakara is referring to this as the 10.5 now, not the 10.9. And it seems to be a change there. Still edge-to-edge design, but a change in the size. When everything is Pro, is anything really Pro? Will there be any iPads available that are new that will not be Pro iPads?
Just old ones. Just the iPad Air 2, however long it lasts.
It seems really weird, right?
Mm-hmm. And maybe they've got to get through this, and eventually they can drop the Pro from the name. I just don't know. But, I mean, we've talked about Apple naming problems forever, right? As long as we've been doing podcasts together, Apple has some stupid naming decision they've made. So it's just part of the deal, I think. But all in all, I think what's most exciting is that the 10.5 inch iPad Pro. The idea that it's roughly the same form factor as the 9.7, but the screen real estate of the 12.9 and some of the layout stuff from the 12.9. If this is true, this will be my next iPad. And, does the 9.7 Pro just get demoted and kind of fill the Air 2 spot? And I don't know. I don't think they can do 9.7, 10.5, and 12.9. That's a lot of iPads really close to each other. But I guess time will tell. Never underestimate the silly decisions that the operations guy can make when he runs the company.
I want the 10.5 inch iPad Pro, and I'm happy for that to exist. The 9.7, I think, shouldn't be an iPad Pro anymore. I think
Agreed.
They should have a 9.7, which is an Air model. The 12.9 should exist as the iPad Pro. It should get all of the features that the 9.7 got, right? It should get True Tone. It should get a new processor. It should be faster, beefier, better. I don't see why you would make a Mini a Pro. I really want to see the case for that. Is there still going to be a regular Mini? You said that the Mini doesn't sell very well. I don't know about that, right? I wonder if that's just the basic iPad that most people get. It's the cheapest. It's the one that you buy for kids. There is a product there that makes a lot of sense that I think would be strange if they replaced it with a product that was more expensive. I think that would be a big miss. If they basically have decided that they don't want the iPads to be Pro anymore, they want all iPads to have these features, cool. But don't put all the prices up.
Well,
if this is what an iPad just becomes, right? Apple has decided that all of the iPads get these features, That's fine. And then you can call the Pro devices the super expensive fancy ones like the 10.5 and the 12.9. And then the Mini and the 9.7, they're just iPads, but iPads now all have smart connectors, they all have True Tone, they all have maybe Apple Pencil support. Right? That would be fine.
Yeah.
But I don't think you can have your entire line called the iPad Pro when then all that's left is what? Like the iPad Mini 4 still and like the Air 2. Like that's a big gulf in between the regular and the Pro at that point. However, when we saw the lack of iPad stuff in 10.3, we were concerned about whether a March event would exist at all. This seems like we might get something. I mean, and as a devout iPad user, look, as I said, I think I said on the show, like I would take new hardware even if there's no new software until September. Like, because I just want to see commitment to the platform, right? It's the same way that people are upset about Mac commitment. We have the same issue in the iPad camp. Like,
I don't think you have the same issue. You haven't had on 3 years without your best model being updated.
Yeah, but we're not okay. But I'm just saying like, consternation in the Mac completely, right? There hasn't been anything sent for a year now. We haven't had any new hardware for a year. Haven't had any new software for 18 months. Like that's not great. So it's not exactly the same.
What's
but it's
Apple
not great.
working on?
This new phone, I think, right? Like I'm starting to wonder, right? So this is my current thinking. If we get an iPad which has like edge to edge iPad, this like beautiful thing that's apparently coming, and this iPhone, then I will know why 2016 was so weird.
Yeah.
Because 2017 is going to be amazing.
Maybe we'll get an edge to edge Mac Pro. Okay.
Yeah, it's like just all screen, and you just touch it and stuff happens.
That sounds like a different type of computing platform. Okay, so that's the iPad stuff. I don't really have much else to add. It seems like it's mostly kind of just like gathering up all the previous rumors, but
please give it. I expect that if this March event exists, there will also be a bump to the iMac. Not like a crazy one, but just like some
Thunderbolt 3,
yeah,
Thunderbolt
USB-C.
3, and KB Lake. And I ran, so I do my K-Base article of the week thing on 512, and this week it was the article about using target display mode, so you could use an iMac as a display for like a MacBook Pro. And they got rid of that with Retina because you couldn't drive the 4K or 5K display from Thunderbolt 2, and at least the way Apple wanted to. And I posted that yesterday, and someone on Twitter was like, well, it could come back with like Thunderbolt 3. You could theoretically run an iMac 5K as a display from a Thunderbolt 3 MacBook Pro, which I think is totally doable, and now I'm hopeful that it comes back. But we'll see. I just bought an iMac last year, so I am set with this machine for years, but I think all that stuff will come. So I agree with you. I think if we're going to see an iMac be in the spring, they'll hold over some Mac stuff until later in the year.
Yeah, I feel like with my Mac now, I'm going to be like John Siracusa. Like, I can't imagine there being a thing that makes me want to update this Mac until it's like just dying.
Yeah.
Like, it's my issue now will be speed, and I think I'm going to have a long time before that's going to be a problem.
They're so good. Like these 5K machines are so fast, and you can put RAM in them, and it's just. I think I agree with you. The longevity of these computers is a lot better than it used to be.
Also, it's not exciting anymore. What? No, he didn't say it. Move on.
So we're gonna have our guest on in a minute, but I want to talk a little bit about where we store our data. This came up for me a couple weeks ago. I got an email to renew my annual Todoist, premium or whatever. So I pay for Todoist extra features, and I pay it a year at a time. And I signed up a year ago, and I got an email, hey, pay us money. I also, at the same time, basically like a couple days later, got one to renew my Remember the Milk professional account thing, which is a to-do list that I have used on and off over the years. I really like the way that it works, but I hate the icon because it's a cow. Remember the Milk had their reminder to email their one customer, which is you, to ask them to up. No, apparently, so I didn't know. I mocked them once, and people came out of the woodwork, especially non-American customers. Like they seem to be really big in parts of the world. But anyways, don't have a cow head as your icon. Don't have a cow, man. This spurred in me. I wonder what else I'm paying for that I'm not using. And so I kind of took a couple of days and broke down all the services I'm using. I put it together in a blog post with a little mind map with a little cartoon me in the middle, which was fun to put together. And just kind of thinking about where my data lives, what I pay for, do I have overlap, or the things I can simplify. And I really walked away with like two big thoughts. One, I'm pretty happy with my setup after I quit paying for Remember the Milk. And two, that especially with iCloud, I only really use iCloud where it does not overlap with something else. And so in 2016, I moved my personal email contacts and calendars to my Gmail account, which I've had since like the private beta days. I've had it forever. And I moved away because iCloud email, their filtering and rules are just pitiful compared to what Gmail offers. And we're already using Google Apps to run Relay. My company runs on Google Apps. Like, it was just nice to have everything on Gmail. And looking at this, I really only use iCloud for things that only iCloud can do. So things like iCloud Keychain and iOS backups. And I do use iCloud Photo Library. Google Photos can do that, and I do have my data there as a sort of a secondary system, but I really like the way iCloud Photo Library works. And I use Notes there and Family Calendar, but anything else that I'm not sharing with my wife who's on iCloud exclusively, or that Apple just restricts to iCloud only, I'm using Google for stuff. And I can hear you writing your emails now. Like, I get it. It works for me. I'm not as paranoid about their privacy stuff as some people are. But that was just an interesting thing I walked away from with that sort of in mind. And so you can go see the graph. It is, all in all, like I have things in fewer places than I thought. I thought going into this that I had stuff that's fragmented all over the place. And it's really not true. I mean, I've got some duplication in like iCloud and 1Password. I use 1Password for secure notes. So like notes with like my kids' social security numbers and birthdays in them, because you always need that when you're on the phone with somebody, like dealing with insurance or something. It's like, I can never remember whose social security number is whose. So I have those in 1Password, not in Notes. But other than that, it ended up that I was actually in pretty good shape, and I really didn't cancel anything besides my Remember the Milk membership. And so it was helpful, and I think it's helpful for people to kind of walk through this. So Myke, I challenged you to do the same thing, and I'm curious as to what you learned about where you have your stuff.
The main thing I learned is that I have photos in too many places, but I think that anybody that's listening to this show would assume that. So I kind of used yours as a template to try and work out where my stuff is. So on iCloud, I have my iCloud photo library, and then stuff like iOS backups and Keychain, right? Like that stuff is just there. My calendars currently, like all of my personal calendars and shared calendars are in iCloud. All of obviously my notes, because I use notes.app, and my personal email. I've just had the email address for so long that there's so many things attached to it, I can't change it. Yeah. Like so many logins for so many services, like just attached to this email address, that it's just like I can't change it. Google, I have my browsing data, my Chrome data, and I have my Google Photos as well. Then I have some personal email accounts run through there, and my work email accounts all run through there. And I have some work calendars, right? So like people invite me to events via my like Relay address or whatever, which is a Google Apps thing. So I have work calendars there, and I'm also going to move some personal calendars to take advantage of automation stuff, because Google Calendar can lock into different services that I'm using right now. Then, of course, I have a lot of Google Docs and Drive Docs, right? Sheets and Docs and stuff is all in Google.
So many,
just like a billion things.
I mean, our company, we've said this, our company runs Google Drive. Like, it's nuts.
And then Dropbox is maybe the service that I use the most extensively, though, because Dropbox is my file system.
Yeah,
if something is not like a web document, like a Drive document, or a video or audio production file, it is in Dropbox. Everything. So stuff that I share with you for work, stuff that I share with other people for recording, and then just all of my own documents just all go in there. Just all goes in there. I have like a pro account. I think I have more Dropbox space than I do disk space. Like, everything just goes in there. And also as well, my photos go in there as well. My photos go everywhere. My photos are also in Backblaze. I'm now fully backed up to Backblaze.
Yes. Welcome. It's so good.
24 hours.
I hate you.
on my internet connection. 24 hours to back up about 600 gigabytes of stuff. Oh, and I forget as well. I backed up all of my external stuff as well. So we're talking. I think it was like a terabyte of stuff that went up in 24 hours.
I want to talk about your external storage a little bit. So I know just from our conversations over the years, you have, best I can tell, between 1 and 17 like USB hard drives floating around with stuff on them.
I have 2 constantly connected to my Mac.
Okay, Time Machine.
One is a Time Machine.
Is one.
So 2 terabyte disk. I have it split. I have it partitioned. 1 terabyte is dedicated to Time Machine. Then 1 terabyte is what I just call cold storage. It's just where like just stuff goes. Like it's just not important stuff. It's just like
get out of my
offloaded
face,
stuff.
But I want to keep it. Yeah.
Then I have like another one, which is like a 500 gig thing where I have just some backups and some things that I don't need. So I have some movies on there, some entertainment stuff on there, and I also have YouTube video stuff goes on there just so it's off the hard drive. It all just goes in there as well. Now that I have like a bit more of a better setup, like I'm thinking, and I have bought a printer now, just like, so now I just feel like I'm buying stuff that's more official for an office. I'm so unhappy that I have a printer, by the way. Like there's just something fundamental about the fact that makes me sad. But it's just like, it's just like driving, like, because you need like every now and then you go into an event and it's like, you need a printed version of this.
Yeah. We got a little black and white brother sits on the network and print to it like once every 6 weeks.
So now I've just got this thing and it's sitting under my desk. So like I say this because like, I'm thinking about these devices. Like I want to get a network attached storage now. Like I want to do this. I just haven't done this. Like, but I just don't know what it's going to be, whether I'm going to go Drobo or Synology. Everybody's got their own opinions on this. I haven't come up with what I want to do yet. So I'm back on that train again. But I do have some, like, the others that you have. I have 1Password. I don't really keep any notes in there, but all of my logins, all my bank account information is all in 1Password. Don't hack me, bro. Obviously, I've got Backblaze now. Todoist and Toggle, right? Productivity things. Then I have Zapier, which I found out recently. It's Zapier, not Zapier.
Oh, today I learned.
Yep, I took that from Federico's pronunciation.
Well, there you
then
go.
Someone took me to task on it and tweeted at the Zapier people and asked them for a pronunciation, and it's like Zapier, like happier.
Oh, they should put a second P in there then.
Yeah, I know, but they should put another P in there, and also because they make things called zaps, right? Like all of their little actions are called zaps, so it's Zapier. And also, if this then that, I have stuff in there as well, right? This is part of my automation stuff. So that's kind of where my data, my online data, is spread across. Are you happy? What have I done wrong?
No, it's, our iCloud and Google stuff is very similar. I mean, part of that obviously is that we work together 7 days a week. But the thing that I think most people get hung up on is I need more storage than what my SSD can have. And how do you manage that? So for me in our household, we have a Mac Mini hooked up to our television, which I've talked about at length in the past. And I have a Drobo hooked up to that via Thunderbolt. And that Mac Mini is on Ethernet. It has a static IP address. That is my file server at home. I can get to it from the outside. And anything, kind of like your cold storage, like anything I don't need on my local SSD on my iMac is there. And I have it there and I have it plugged in via Thunderbolt so I can back it up to Backblaze. So I'm actually pulling up my dashboard. My Drobo has something like 4.2 terabytes on it. And that's all on Backblaze. It took a really long time because I don't have fiber like you do. But it's all there in one place, and in one place it makes it easy to back up. And I also do like offsite external hard drives that I use Carbon Copy Cloner and duplicate those disks and take them elsewhere. But I think the biggest thing people run into, and it sounds like you've solved it now with Backblaze, is that people don't back up their external drives. I can't tell you how many times, like, when I was doing tech or even doing consulting, like someone's like, well, I had it on external drive. It's like, well, did you only have one copy of it? Because one copy of data is temporary. Like even in the chat room, people are like, yeah, I have all my work stuff on an external USB drive. Good for you. Back it up. Like only one drive, stuff on one drive is temporary data.
Like I literally backed up my Dropbox folder to Backblaze.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I just checked. I have 1.1 terabytes of stuff there.
On Backblaze?
Yeah.
Yeah, mine's got to be bigger than that because I've got three computers and the Drobo. But I think that's where people get hung up, is they just don't know how to back up an external drive. So Backblaze can do that if it's locally attached. It cannot do, I believe this is still true, it cannot do a network attached drive, but I'm sure the chat room will correct me if I'm wrong about that. But if you have a USB hard drive that's plugged into your computer all the time, like just add it to your Backblaze account. Or if you can't afford the bandwidth to do that or whatever, like just buy another USB drive and copy it over every once in a while. Because again, data that's only one place is temporary. 3 is 2, 2 is 1, and 1 is none, as a wise man once said. So I think that's where most people get hung up, and that's what's kind of made me nervous about your setup over the years. But it sounds like you're solving that with your fiber connection and a Backblaze account. So I think all in all, you get a Vitici seal of quality today. I can hand those out because he's not here. Yes. So good job.
So we have a special guest now, and this special guest means that you need to go away.
Yeah.
So goodbye, Stephen Hackett.
Bye, Myke.
This week's episode is brought to you by Squarespace. Enter the offer code WORLD at checkout and you will get 10% off your first purchase. Look, make your next move. With Squarespace, they easily let you create a website for that next idea that you've been working on. And with the ability to grab a unique domain name, to be able to take advantage of award-winning templates, and so much more, they're the perfect place for you to check out. Maybe you're looking to create a blog, a portfolio, an online store. It doesn't matter what type of site you want to put on the internet. Squarespace is the all-in-one platform that lets you do it. There's nothing to install, no patches to worry about, no upgrades needed, nothing to sit and maintain. Squarespace has got it covered. They have award-winning 24/7 customer support in case you need any help with anything. They let you quickly and easily grab a unique domain name, and all of those award-winning templates are beautifully designed with responsive design built in so you can show off your great ideas. Squarespace is great for people that are not really sure what they're doing, or for people that just don't want to have to worry about anything, or if you do know all of the web stuff that I don't know, you can go into their developer platform and just tinker with things to your heart's content and still get, you get all the support, you get all the great hosting, and you get all of their great tools and integrations. You can still benefit from all of that, but still get in and tinker under the hood if you want to. Squarespace plans start at just $12 a month, and you can sign up for a trial with no credit card needed by going to squarespace.com. Then when you decide to sign up, use the offer code WORLD, WORLD, at checkout, and you'll get 10% off your first purchase and show your support for this show. Thanks to Squarespace. Squarespace, make your next move, make your next website. All right, so we are now joined by a special guest on Connected, the one and only Mary Hackett. Hi, Mary, how are you?
Hey, I'm well. How about you?
Very good, thank you. So we wanted to have you on the show. Well, I mean, there's many reasons I want to have you on the show, and we're going to get to some of those shortly. But Stephen is gone. It's just me and you. And
he is.
We wanted to have you on to talk about the Beats X headphones, because you got some of the Beats X wireless headphones, right?
I did. I got them for my birthday from Stephen Hackett.
What a nice guy he is, huh?
You know, he really is.
He really is a very nice guy.
I like him.
Why did you want the Beats X maybe over something like AirPods?
Well, to be honest, I lose things.
Okay.
So the AirPods were not super appealing. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're really cool. I enjoy looking at Stevens and flipping the little top and putting them in and out and seeing them charge. But not really practical for me, mainly because I start and stop whatever I'm listening to so frequently, because I've got little people around the house. I'm always stopping to somebody's asking me a question. Okay, what was that? And then I'll start my music back again. And so if I'm constantly taking one out, I'm going to set it down somewhere and then I'll never find it again.
So I wondered if maybe you were just like many people just didn't like the silliness of the AirPods, like that they do look kind of dorky. They
do. They're a little dumpy. But especially for something so new, I don't know. It just look a little awkward. I'm getting over that. I think just seeing it more often helps you kind of get over that factor.
Yeah, I found myself quite lucky in that I have a beard, because like the end of them just kind of like hides in my beard and you can't really tell so much. They stay out of the way a little bit more because it just tucks in there.
I have a feeling if I were wearing them with my hair pulled back, like working out, they would really stick out.
Yeah. Is this your first pair of Bluetooth headphones? Have you had Bluetooth headphones before? It is. So what do you think about that? Like no wires. How do you find that?
I love it. Because I was constantly So what I should maybe say what my setup was before getting the Beats X. Before, I just had the regular earbuds. And so then I would wear, if I were working out or doing something around the house where I was going to be moving and listening to podcast music, then I would have my phone in a little armband and then have my wired, my headphones plugged into that. So then I would have to like wrap it back behind my head so that it's not in front of me when I'm working or picking up kids, or so I'd have it wrapped behind my head, around my hair, and then have usually one tucked into my ear and the other one like wrapped around my shirt, like my clothing, to keep it out of the way so that I could hear what was going on, but also get a little bit of music in the background. And it was getting kind of ridiculous, especially with the cool weather, trying to like get it around, like, is it under my hoodie? Is it over my hoodie? Well, now my armband is stuck, so I've got to reach up my sleeve to plug in, and I can't see what I'm doing. So it was pretty ridiculous. So I really am enjoying it.
Like it doesn't matter how small the phone is; those armbands they just suck. Like it's just not good. It's just not convenient. It's too big. It's too bulky. Like that's one of the things that we've lost since having all of our audio on little iPods that could just be clipped to you. Like the Shuffle or whatever. They were awesome. But then, like, now we move to our phones, and they're just these huge, big bricks that had to be strapped to us somewhere.
It's true. Yes, I'm really enjoying the wireless factor.
So do you just, like, I assume if you're at home or whatever, you can just leave the phone wherever, just walk around the house. Do the Beats X have good range if you found that, like, if you're walking around the house, they stay connected?
They do. And I feel like it kind of gives me a little, like, I'll forget that I don't even have my phone with me. And so I'll walk, from the front of the house to the back, and it'll kind of blip in and out and be like, oh yeah, I need to go get my phone if I'm going to move and be working in a different part of the house. But I mean, I couldn't tell you how many feet exactly, but I went from the kitchen out to the garage. I mean, closed doors, walls, 2 walls. And I could still hear the music.
Yeah,
it was obviously not as good a connection, but I feel like it does a really good job.
So what are you finding yourself using these for? Is it just music? Are you listening to podcasts, and like, is it for around the house, working out, that kind of thing?
Yes, it's for both. I've only gotten to use them once for working out, but it's been amazing because, well, for several reasons. I really like the skin of them. They're not slick. It's a little bit rubbery.
It's like a soft touch kind of material, right?
Yeah. Right. So then it's not slipping around if I'm doing yoga, if I'm upside down, they're not falling off. I'm not trying to stick things back into my ears, or they really stay put. The tips are really comfortable in the ears.
Yeah, I struggle with those. I have, like, in my left ear, no headphones will stay in them. Like, the ones that go in the ears. I don't know what it is. My right ear's totally fine. But, like, I've used foam ones. I've used the rubber ones of all sizes. But
really?
They always just pop out on my left ear. Just my left ear. I don't know what it is. So, like, I can only use either the over ears or, like stuff like the AirPods, which just sits on the inside. Like, kind of just sits there. But anything that goes in, it just pops out.
I wonder if these are a different shape, I feel like, than most other ones. They kind of angle. In fact, we were sitting there looking at them like monkeys, really confused. Like, is this the right one? Is this the left one? Because they hook. It almost looks like they hook forward and hook into your ear.
And it has those little wingtip things as well, right?
Yeah.
Those really weird looking things.
Right. It's I think it's 3.
Right.
3 that kind of stack on top of each other. So you get good, not suction, but you get good contact.
Right. Have you tried switching devices at all? Like, have you played around with any of the quick pairing stuff?
I've only used my phone.
Right. Because these have that they had like the same pairing technology in them that the AirPods do, like where you don't need to go through all the crazy Bluetooth stuff. You just hold them near and they connect. Which is kind of cool, so you can switch them around. A lot of people complain or don't like the way that Beats headphones sound because they equalize them in a specific way, right? I think typically they're quite bassy. Do you have any thoughts on that? Like, if you found them to sound good, or if you found them to sound weird at all, depending on what you're listening to?
I really think that they're pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm coming from just the plain old earbuds, so pretty much anything's probably going to be better quality. We did find out when we first put them in, it's like, they're really tinny. I can't hear the bass almost at all. But it was something on my phone. I had like bass equalizing on. And so I was like, I don't know how you've been hearing any
That's
bass
funny.
at all.
Stephen was really complaining about them. Like when he tried them, it's like, oh, these things sound crap. There's no bass at all.
We figured that one out.
It's like, I don't know how this happened. Don't look at me, man. It's nothing to do with me.
No, it is nice though. That's a good point. The way they I don't know if they mix it or the way that it's equalized. It is good because, like I said, most of the time I'm listening with one in, one out, so that I can hear if somebody's crying or needs something. But I don't feel like I'm missing half of the music, you know?
And they have inbuilt controls on them, right? Like, one of the benefits of these over-the-air pods, as you mentioned, is like they're attached to each other, so it's harder to lose them because there's like a big cable there. And they have the controls built into the little cable. What controls does it have? So
on the left, you've got a microphone if you needed to take a call on them. And then you've got the pause, volume up, volume down. And then I would say on the other side, you've got the on and off switch.
Okay.
So you're not going to confuse them. You're not going to accidentally like try to turn the music up and turn them off and then have to, push it back on and repair it. You don't have to worry about that.
Like it is the thing that I miss from my AirPods. Like I really like the AirPods for many of the same reasons that you like the Beats, right? Like the convenience and there's no wires and stuff and the connection's good. They sound good. But the benefit that these things have is having those controls. Like I do miss them. I'm willing to kind of let it go because everything else about them is really great. But not being able to play in pools like just by pressing a button is frustrating. Like the tapping on them doesn't work 100% of the time. And it's an uncomfortable thing to hit yourself in the side of the head, right? Like it's just not a thing. And taking them out, I don't like taking them out because I drop them all the time.
Yes.
And because they're just these little, this is the thing, like the AirPods are like, they're like shiny plastic where like, I wish they had a coating more like the Beats X where it was a bit more grippy.
Yeah. I really been really happy with them.
And what about the battery life? Have you had any thoughts on that? I expect that you haven't really had to charge it.
I have charged it once, and last night I did a little experiment to see exactly how quickly I could charge them. And they were at 45% after I'd listened to them all morning while I was working around the house and doing some painting. And so then I charged them, set a timer for 5 minutes. And after the 5 minutes was up, they were up to 67%.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, I mean, even if you completely drain them the day before and then you're on your way to the gym, as long as you have, your charger, you could just sit there for a minute, check email. And by the time you finish checking email and looking at Twitter, then they would be charged up and you'd be able to use them. And
you can use lightning cables to charge them, right? You don't need a specific cable. See, that's really awesome because that's something that's frustrated me. Like,
yes, especially if you travel a lot.
Oh yeah, because it's just another cable. Like I have a pair of the newer Beats over-the-ear headphones, like that have the same technology in as these do, but they charge with a micro USB. And I'm like, oh, Apple, why did you do this? Like it's so annoying. Like I just want to just use the lightning cable, and I'm pleased that they did that. Like it just sticks into the little control part, right? You just plug it in.
Yeah, so easy. That's so nice. Yeah, because I love. I know Steven doesn't really care for them very much, but I love my Fitbit. But it drives me insane. Like every model has a different charger almost, at least in our house. And so we've got a little hub, a charging hub with 3 different chargers, plugs plugged in, but they're all for different Fitbits. Like we don't even have one for all Fitbits. It's so annoying.
Yeah. Talking about those Fitbits, like you're big on the Fitbit, right? You've gone through like 60 of them or something.
Yes. They're not long lasting, but I love them for what they are.
What do you use on the Fitbit? Is it like just step counting? Like what was it that you like on them?
I don't really care how many steps I take in a day.
Okay.
It doesn't really mean anything to me. I like to measure distance. It's just exciting to me if I've like walked a 5K. I'm like, yeah, no wonder my feet are sore, whatever. But I really like, my favorite thing is probably the sleep tracking.
Right.
In the evening.
Yes.
Sometimes you wake up and you're like, man, I just feel like I didn't even close my eyes. I feel like I just went to sleep. And then I can go and see, I'm like, oh, because I was like twisting and turning all night. That's what happened.
Right. So it gives you that sort of data, right? Do you tell it you go to sleep and you
Yeah.
leave it? Do you leave it on when you sleep?
No, I don't even tell it. My charge too, I don't have to tell it that I'm going to sleep. So it can, like, if I nap, it knows. I don't have to tell it to start or stop.
It's always got its eye on you.
It does.
No napping. No napping around.
Always
here.
watching. Yes, it shocks me whenever I nap during the day so that I get up again.
Well, I hope for your sake that they stay in business. They're
I
struggling.
know.
They're struggling a little right now.
I know. Maybe they can just do better, make their stuff last longer than 9 to 12 months.
So overall, the Beats X, thumbs up?
Yes.
All right. Well, it's good. I'm happy that there are a bunch of different options. I mean, of course, these are all made by Apple, but they have the same core technology to them, which is this new chip, which is the great Bluetooth, the great battery life, and now there are 3 headphones available. You've got like the over-the-ear, the on-ear ones, but the big ones that go over. I think they're called the Solo 3, and then we have the Beats X, and then the AirPods as well. So there's a bunch of there's a bunch of like options available. And you use an SE, right? So you still have a headphone jack.
Yes, I do.
So this isn't like, for us, we have no choice. Like,
I'm not locked into it.
yeah, but it's still a choice that you're happy to make because you like the conveniences of Bluetooth.
Yes.
I want to ask you a few questions about Stephen before I let you go.
Oh, good. I have a document in front of me of what I'm allowed to say and what I'm not.
Throw that document out the window. Stephen is widely known as a collector of old computers. Mm-hmm. These computers are huge and take up a lot of space. And from what I have seen and from what he mentions, they are dotted all around the house. What do you really think about these old computers?
Some of them are just ugly, and I don't really want them in the house. But most of those are his most prized possessions, and so they're out here with him in the studio.
It is funny. The ugliest ones, like the one that he spent all that money on, right? That came with all the things.
Yes.
That thing. It was fun at the time, but now it looks terrible. It's so bad.
Oh, yes. Yeah, since we moved, we have a little more space for people and computers, and that has been really nice.
Do you not worry that he's just going to fill all that space, though, with more old computers?
Oh, it's very full.
Yeah.
You've probably seen pictures of the rack that he's like fitted with the awesome lights to show off the display, and
at least that's out of the house now, though, right? Like it's out in the in the studio.
I feel like if you had asked me this question maybe in May of last year, probably would have been a different answer.
Do you have a favorite?
There are a couple of the iMacs that are pretty adorable.
Yeah,
like after he made his whole collection, seeing them all lined up together was kind of sweet.
Stephen made the news a couple of months ago with his hissing iPhone.
Yes.
Did you hear the phone hissing at all?
Oh, yeah.
And what was your thought on it? Was it like get out of the house type of thing?
I heard it. Since I don't pay attention quite as closely as you guys do to tech.
Not many people do, really.
I feel like if it had been my phone and I weren't married to Stephen Hackett, I would probably be like, that's weird. And that's it. I would not have taken it in. But since he noticed it and was like, hey, listen to this. It was definitely noticeable. I thought, oh, that's weird. Like, why is it doing that? And so then it apparently became a thing that a lot of people were very bothered by.
Turns out many people. What was that like? Were you getting family members and stuff like commenting about that, like seeing it on the news?
Yeah. Like Josiah's, our son's preschool teacher from when he was 3. He's 8 now. When he was 3, she was like, is this like your Stephen Hackett? He's on the news. Like I was just watching the news last night and his name popped out in this little video. It's like, yeah, that's my
troublemaker. My troublemaking husband. There he is. Mary, thank you so much for joining us today.
Of course. Glad to be with you.
I would just like to know if the opportunity ever arose, would you replace Stephen on the show?
Would I replace him on the show? Oh, I'll fill in whenever. Yeah.
Excellent. That's good because, of all the Hacketts, I think I like you the most.
Oh, thanks, Myke.
If you want to find our show notes this week, head on over to relay.fm/connected/130. And thanks so much to our sponsors, Smile, Ministry of Supply, and Squarespace. But again, most of all, thank you to our special guest this week, Mary Hackett. Until next time, say goodbye, Mary.
Adios.